Time to hit our off-season to-do list covering the San Diego Padres, and we are very pleased to be joined by Marty Caswell, who writes for the Sporting Tribune and is now going to be a regular contributor to Friar Territory, part of the FT Network, the Padres show. So, Marty, welcome. We're excited to have you and to chat with you more frequently and get right into the San Diego Padres. So, how you doing? And congrats.
Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Thank you so much, Todd, Erik, and Scott. I am so thrilled to be here and join your outstanding crew, work with our guy, Kyle Glazer, and talk some Padres. So thank you so much for having me. It's a true pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure is all ours. Love your coverage of the Padres. So let's get right into it. Let's give everyone a taste of what Friar Territory has to offer. Lay down the offseason to-do list in your mind for the Padres, the top three most important.
Number one, it has to start with their president of baseball ops and their GM AJ Preller entering the final year of his deal. We have been talking about the idea of an extension for AJ Preller for, since the last month of the regular season. It was brought up during the intro press conference for Craig Stammen, their new manager. We asked Padres CEO Erik Kratz about what's going on. No one will really say, oh, this is a done deal, it's going to happen. There is the likelihood and the expectation it's going to happen, but it still hasn't happened. So I don't think you can really move on with anything else and know what this future is going to be about until we have absolute certainty on Padres GM AJ Preller. All indications, including from Craig Stammen, was that this is going to happen, but the fact that it is now November 24th, the baseball meetings are upon us and there's still no deal, that's going to be interesting. Number two, it's going to be the starting pitching. We know that Michael King, Dylan Cease, they declined their options. They are now free agents. Yu Darvish is out for all of 2026, and who knows what his future with the Padres is. He has 3 years left on his deal. So right now, when you look at the Padres rotation, this is what they have. They have Nick Pivetta, who is an absolute bargain, who was a find for the Padres late last December. They have Randy Vasquez, who is a fine back of the rotation sort of piece. And they have uncertainty around JP Sears, who was part of the interesting trade for Mason Miller that also saw them giving up a top prospect, Leo DeVries. So the starting pitching, you can never have enough starting pitching. And right now, the Padres have one guy that's a lock. Also, I should mention that Joe Musgrove is going to return after major Tommy John surgery, but we don't know what to expect from Joe Musgrove when he does return. I spoke to him a couple weeks ago when the Padres hired Craig Stammen. He says that he is in the right spot right now. The velocity, the spin is very good when he has his bullpen, and he is proceeding with this offseason in a normal offseason. But who knows on Joe Musgrove what to expect when he does join the Padres. But he does expect to be ready for spring training. And last on my list right now, and it's a long list, but if we're doing top three, would be first baseman. I'm not sure what the future is for Luis Ariz. He is currently a free agent. I know he wants to return, but I think the Padres want a little bit more slug from their first baseman. We'll see how that market sorts itself out. I know the Padres might be interested in bringing back Ryan O'Hearn, but right now they do not have a true first baseman, although they could move Jake Cronenworth from second base back to first base, where he filled in very, very well. But right now, my top three: AJ Preller, the uncertainty about his future, starting pitching. Can they convert Morahone or Mason Miller into a rotation piece, and finding a slugging first baseman?
All right. You said extend AJ Preller. Mm-hmm. You know, extensions are two-sided. Is there any chance that AJ Preller says, I've already spent all this money. I've already spent all these prospects. I've built this team up. If he sees what ownership or the flux in ownership that we're at in San Diego, mm-hmm. is he like, you know what? Maybe I do want to go and be probably the most coveted GM out there on the market and walk away? Or is this definitely a two-sided extension talk where they both want AJ Preller to be the GM for a long time in San Diego?
I think it's two-sided, and I don't know that there's any certainty that we know for sure that AJ Preller is going to be the guy long-term. I think that the giant elephant in the room is the uncertainty about Padres ownership. He was very, very close with the late Peter Seidler, who is a big reason why the Padres were able to spend that kind of money and extend Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado and Bogarts and, big contracts for Joe Musgrove and for Yu Darvish. But Peter passed away a couple years ago, and now the current current chairman, John Seiler, has made it clear that he's looking to sell the team. So I don't know right now that we know what's going to happen with Padres ownership. And when ownership comes in, a lot of times they want their own people. And maybe AJ Preller was like, listen, I've been here for 10 years. I did my thing. We tried to go ahead and build up on Peter's vision. Padres have one of the greatest atmospheres in baseball, as you guys know. Petco Park is sold out every single night, but we don't know what's going to happen now with the future of this organization. We have not spoken with John Seiler. I think he spoke maybe once with the Padres radio flagship, but he has not made himself available to speak with the media. So we don't know really what John Seiler thinks on AJ Preller. So we're gonna find out a lot. But again, I don't know that I feel like this is an absolute lock. Maybe if you're AJ Preller, you want to go somewhere where you have firmer footing, like you know what the future of the organization is going to be. And right now, there's a lot of I don't know when it comes to the future of the Padres ownership.
Talk to me a little bit about. Well, first off, I think the Padres have one of the best relieving teams in the country. I've always thought that. Yes. I've always thought when their relievers came in, almost lights out. But as we've seen,
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about Mr. Miller here, Mason Miller. All of a sudden, in the rotation, we got throws over 103 miles an hour. I mean, talk to me a little bit about that question and what their prognosis and thoughts are there.
I can't wait to get to spring training so we can ask Mason Miller. I know that you guys had Jim Bowden on a while ago, and he mentioned a conversation that he had with Mason Miller. I want to say a year and a half ago at the All-Star game, where Mason Miller said he's done that before. He doesn't want to be a starter. And of course, we know that Robert Suarez, he was allowed to become a free agent. There was a mutual option there. So the Padres don't have a true closer. We thought at that time that Mason Miller was brought in to be that guy. But if Mason doesn't want to do it, then I don't know how you can't make him do it. But then again, Ruben Niebla is different. This is a different situation than when Mason Miller was with the Oakland A's or the Sacramento A's or the Vegas A's or whatever they're calling them these days. It's a completely different situation. So maybe if you're Ruben Niebla and your former reliever Craig Stammen, who's now his manager, perhaps they can convince him into it. But if not, you can look at Adrian Morejon, the idea of converting him into a starting pitcher, or maybe it's going to be David Morgan. But right now, I thought Mason Miller at that time was brought in to be the future for Robert Suarez, who's now a free agent. So that's a good problem to have if you're the Padres. I'm looking forward to seeing how convincing Ruben Niebla and Craig Stammen can be in convincing him that he has a better future in the rotation than the back end of the bullpen. And another point there, Todd. One thing that AJ Preller has done an incredible job of is finding all-star relievers. We know what Robert Suarez is, and he was an all-star this year. But don't forget that Kirby Yates was an all-star for the Padres as their closer back in 2019. Before that, it was Brad Hand in 2017 and 2018. That was during an era, though, where the Padres could not afford to pay their stars. They traded their all-stars. But one thing it tells me is that AJ Preller does not have a problem when it comes to finding all-star relievers.
All right. Well, your last point was first base. First base is a need for San Diego, and they showed, you know what, we have Luis Ariz here last year, and so we don't need we don't need a lot of power from first base. The Padres as a team need power. First base is if your rest of your team's not going to hit for power, your first baseman has to. Is there a chance, because of the payroll flexibility or inflexibility of their payroll, that they can bargain shop for home runs? Essentially, if the Padres stick to where they're at, you need about 30 home runs from first base. And that's not happening under $15 million a year on the free agent market.
It's not going to happen. I almost feel like part of their philosophy for last year. I mean, you want to get slug. I think they were expecting a lot more slug from their platinum glove right fielder, and that's going to be interesting right there, because what they said all along was, you can get a first baseman and you can survive with 10 to 15 home runs if you're getting major slug from your outfielders, and they didn't get that from Tatis last year. So I don't know that we can expect the Padres to be in the market for like a Pete Alonso or something like that, but we'll see what the market is for a guy like Ryan O'Hearn, who is a great fit in the Padres clubhouse. But I with the way the payroll is right now, and you're pushing $200 million even though you don't have your rotation set up. I don't know that I'm expecting the Padres to spend a ton of money when it comes to their first baseman. You're probably going to hope that you get a lot more slug from Tatis, maybe a rebound from Manny Machado. Of course, Ramon Laureano, before he went injured, he was slugging like crazy. So I don't know that the Padres are going to be in the market for a top hitting first baseman. That's where you want your slug, but they haven't gotten it. Then again, they haven't really gotten it consistently from the spots they were expecting this last season.
New manager, Craig Stammen. Everybody was thinking like, oh, wow, look at this. It was kind of like over there in the distance. Nobody really thought, I don't think anybody knew at the end of the day. But, hey, I'm not mad about it. I think this is different. I think the baseball is different. I like ex-players getting in my family. Look at you laughing at that. I love what – I want to get your thoughts on that for one. But for two, How do you think the players are going to adjust to this in the new manager in Craig?
Todd, they're going to adjust a lot better than they did with the previous first-time managers. I'll start with the Andy Green era, and the Andy Green era was different because he was not brought in to win. He was brought in to be the bridge to when they could start, spending some money. He started off his Padres career with 4 Rule 5 picks on the opening day roster, right? And Jace Tingler, man, he was a good buddy of AJ Preller from their time in the Rangers. He didn't have a chance because he didn't have a clubhouse that bought into him. He never had a chance with guys like Eric Hosmer and Manny Machado and a young Tatis. This is going to be different though with Craig Stammen because number one, he has the support of the guy that I keep saying is the most important clubhouse guy on the Padres, and that's Manny Machado. Stammen said that he heard from Manny Machado right away, and he was so excited for the hire. And when Craig Stammen was a reliever with the Padres, he was so respected. You don't usually hear about like a relief pitcher being a leader in that clubhouse, but Craig Stammen was wildly popular in that clubhouse. He was so respected. He's really respected by Manny Machado. I think he told a story about how he and Manny would play cards on every single flight. So he has guys. I had Joe Musgrove on one of my shows. The day they made the announcement or the day that the news came out, and he said, give this guy a chance. I know he's a first-time manager. He's never coached at any level. Fans fell in love with the idea of Albert Pujols, who was a Hall of Famer and one of the biggest stars of in baseball history. But Craig Stammen knows the organization inside out. He is AJ Preller's trusted right-hand man. He knows the scouting system. He knows the front office. He knows the organization. He's not going to be new. So I think he's going to bring instant respect inside that clubhouse. It's going to be different than it was for an Andy Green, for a Jace Tingler, and even Mike Schilt, who had to really go out of his way when he was hired by the Padres 2 years ago. And Schilt went on tour. He went to the Dominican Republic. He went to Miami. He went everywhere to get to know these guys and let them know, listen, I've never played or coached. This is who I am. The difference that Craig Stammen has is a good portion of the guys in that clubhouse, the leaders, the key cogs, the Tatis, the Mannys, the Joe Musgrove. They know who Craig Stammen is. And AJ Preller knows who he is, and that gives him a very big advantage.
All right, 2022, the Padres were Bryce Harper away from making the World Series. 23, they did not make the World Series. 24, they were one game and one throw into the dugout away from Manny Machado going to the World Series. Same old. Is this successful for for AJ Preller, who you want to get extended? Mm-hmm. And the Padres fans who absolutely clamor for this team and they love being in this environment, if they just keep making the playoffs and not finishing the job, because this is clearly the team. They need to make a splash. Will they make a splash this offseason to push it forward, or are they just going to continue to hope and pray that something goes their way when they make the playoffs?
I think you have a great point there. There was a bit of I think Padres fans are a bit disgruntled right now because they are seeing the separation. You want to have a deep playoff run. And I don't know, there was really that belief that the Padres were going to make a deep playoff run this in 2025 because of the state of the pitching staff. That was a big issue when they didn't know what was going to happen with Michael King or his health. Dylan Cease was not Dylan Cease, and the Padres don't have that guy. So I think there's a lot of unease with Padres fans because you want to see your team getting better and better. We saw what the Dodgers did, which is the last thing you want if you're a Padres fan, and they have deep pocketbooks. Padres fans have gone through this before with the team being sold and the wild uncertainty it left. There was a small feeling that last year was kind of their last best chance. That was their window, right? Because you had Dylan Cease and you had Michael King and you have Manny Machado was like in his prime. So they're getting older and they have less pitching. So I don't know that Padres fans are feeling it, and I don't know that they think that they can make a deep splash because of the uncertainty around the ownership. One thing that Padres CEO Erik Kratz said at the presser for Craig Stammen was he expects that it's going to be business as usual, and they will still hold a top 10 payroll. But a lot of those commitments are the players they have already under contract. Manny Machado, Tatis, Bogarts. They're going to make over $100 million combined from 2027 on. So I don't know that there's a true belief that the Padres can spend the way they did under Peter Seidler, especially when it seems like a sale is imminent.